Second Thought guy used to give speeches for like the communist channel on YouTube too. Keffals actually sent me videos of this.
The United States and European imperialist powers backed a far-right coup in Ukraine that overthrew the elected government and installed a puppet regime on the border of the US's Cold War rival.
What an unbelievable series of totally baseless statements.
And even considering a preemptive nuclear strike.
What is the reference? Like, what are we referring to for any of this? Like, what?
The United States remains the primary obstacle to peace in the region. As China attempts to broker a peaceful resolution, desperate attempt by the US and its staunchest allies to weaken its economic adversaries by encouraging proxy wars in Eastern Europe and Asia.
In case you forgot, Russia are the ones invading, by the way.
It has become increasingly apparent that as the US empire declines, it will become ever more violent and militaristic, a dangerous situation for the rest of the world, as the United States remains the only country on Earth to have used nuclear weapons on human beings, and they did it not once, but twice. The Communist Party of the United States.
Destiny, there's a lot of pushback on Twitter, Reddit, on that Second Thought tweet that, Second Thought meant how Israel is treating Palestinians and the reaction within Israel and the wider Western world rather than what you tweeted. There are other ways that you might be able to read his tweet, but I'm sorry, after his appearance and the way that they talk about Israeli settlers on that Second Thought podcast, the amount of charitability he gets from me is basically nothing. I'm sorry. Does somebody want to link that that clip from the Deprogram show, and we can just listen to them talking about like that all Israelis are settlers real quick? We can listen to it so I can pair it with this if you're just watching this and you haven't heard it. So. The retweet that he had was, when I was younger, I could never understand how normal, ordinary Germans could have supported, actively or passively, the Holocaust. I think I understand now. I feel like the implication here is Israel is treating Palestinians so horribly that we should like kill all of Israel, or we can understand why people want to kill all of Israel. But like, I think he's kind of lost the right to have any amount of charitability applied to him there when he's on like shows like talking about shit like this.
Sent thank you very much. He says, did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news? I don't care.
Yeah, the occupiers are not civilians. That is what it comes down to. Like, imagine
Sorry, go on.
Germany, let's say Germany, to be non-controversial, invaded the United States, and they said, you know what, Cincinnati, Ohio is our ancestral home, and everyone knows that's blatantly false. But they take your home, they murder your grandma, they bulldoze like your neighbor's house. Are those people civilians there? No, they're occupiers, and those are criminals. Yeah. There are no civilians there in the illegal military occupation.
Yeah.
There are no civilians in the illegal military operation. He's essentially the argument, the justification here. This is carte blanche to kill every single Israeli citizen. There are no civilians. It's all military personnel, right? I'm not even reaching. That's just the argument that he's given, right?
So that's number one, very beautifully put. Number two, much more importantly, the track record of Palestinians has been 1,000 times better than that of the Israeli occupation, despite the fact that Israeli occupation does not need to brutalize. They already have all the power, but they still choose to do far, 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 far worse. The worst that will happen to a person in Palestinian custody is that they're going to be like auctioned off for a prisoner swap, which is the historic track record also.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. He says, did the Palestinians...
So yeah, I'm not giving this guy any amount of charitability. Like, that's wild. Why would I ever be charitable to this guy? And then obviously Hasan goes on the same podcast and...
Speaking of which, tell us, Hakim, you're the closest. Tell us, what the fuck is going on?
Very base things. This will be incredibly hard.
So what the fuck is going on is referring to the October 7th attacks, and the response was very based things, okay?
Speaking of which, tell us, Hakim, you're the closest. Tell us, what the fuck is going on?
Very base things. This will be incredibly hard to do without getting bleeped or getting the stream taken.
Hasan was in chat during this podcast,
yeah. So I'm gonna what's it called? Mind my words a little bit. TLDR, basically a unexpected operation from a united front of sorts from Gaza, that has launched itself into the neighboring areas. Which, of course, the entire nation is Palestine, but for all intents and purposes right now, just to make it more simple, they've attacked certain settlements in what is termed now Israel. And they've made lots of headway. They've made an impressive amount of headway. By the way, the live the amount of people watching this is the first time we've had such an amount. No, we're up to like 1,450 or something.
Hey,
Goddamn.
nice. Howdy, everybody. I think that's
Very
our
nice.
highest yet.
I hate
Yeah, exactly.
all of you motherfuckers.
Hey, look.
It's okay.
It's Hasan.
You get a kiss from
Hasan's
me.
in chat.
No.
That's why.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, hey, Hasan.
All right.
Yeah,
Hey, what up?
Hey,
All
partner.
right, that makes sense. Mohammed Zaman sent $5. Thank you very much. He says, "Did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news?" I don't care.
Yeah, the occupiers
I don't-
are
I do
not
not.
civilians. That is what it
Oh,
comes
that's
down
the
to.
same
If-
from the last
imagine
time.
French-
Yeah.
Like if
Sorry, go on.
Germany, let's say Germany to be non-controversial, invaded the United States, and they said, you know what, Cincinnati, Ohio is our ancestral home, and everyone knows that's blatantly false, but they take your home, they murder your grandma, they bulldoze like your neighbor's house. Are those people civilians there? No, they're occupiers, and those are criminals. That is, there are no civilians.
The baby settlers.
My attention to some of the evil takes I've heard folks making about Israelis.
Did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news? I don't care.
Yeah.
As the bodies are still bleeding out, he's saying this is what liberation struggle looks like: beheading babies, burning families alive, solidarity and victory to the Palestinian people. This is pro-Hamas. This man is supporting Hamas.
I think his position.
Just called babies militants.
No, I understand, and there are baby settlers
that's
as
evil.
well. But there are
Baby settlers.
baby settlers as well. There are babies in the settlement
This man
subjected
is
to as well.
normalizing murdering civilians.
He has no capacity
And
to do.
I understand you think it's silly.
I do.
But again,
I do think
And then Hasan is like laughing about this while he fake crocodile cries later on. God, I hate him. I actually hate him as a person. Oh, he's such a disgusting fuck human being. Okay. We don't need to be on a tangent this much. Do you see all those videos from Dagestan? Supposedly a lynch mob was formed to look for Jews they suspected of being in a hotel in their town. Oh, no, I haven't seen it. I don't know. Maybe not.
Research if you're not like a dumb cunt who is obsessed with being an edgy revolutionary dip, and he's not. He's a himbo millionaire living in LA. He doesn't know any of this. He's never been in a communist party. He's a retard.
The Second Thought guy used to give speeches for, I think, like the communist channel on YouTube too. I don't know if he still has them. Keffals actually sent me videos of this. I don't know if they're still up or not, but he used to do like YouTube videos for them. Second Thought, Ukraine War. He made this video for CPUSA, International Department. I didn't actually watch this whole video. I wonder what he says about this.
In late February of 2022, Russia officially began what it has since called its special military operation in Ukraine. While this event marked a significant escalation in violence between the two countries, it was not where the conflict began. Nearly a decade ago, the United States and European imperialist powers backed a far-right coup in Ukraine that overthrew the elected government and installed a puppet regime on the border of the US's Cold War rival.
What an unbelievable series of totally baseless statements. Every single thing he just said there was untrue. Far right, military coup, backed by the US. None of those things are true, but...
At the time, this was seen as a clear provocation by the United States, and an attempt to gain a foothold to launch an eventual proxy war in the region.
That's not true either. We already have countries. All three of the Baltics are bordering Russia. We already have those if we want to stage an invasion. Or we just shoot shit from Turkey. Like...
A reality which has been conveniently swept under the rug in recent years. But even this thinly veiled threat cannot be considered the true beginning of the conflict. We'd have to go all the way back to the illegal dissolution of the Soviet Union to really understand the root of the problem.
The illegal dissolution of the Soviet Union. You do not have a right to declare independence from your Soviet oppressors.
The undermining and eventual destruction of the original socialist project. The brutal and sadistic economic shock therapy that followed. And the fragmenting of what had once been a strong and united people. The moment the Second World War ended, the United States began preparing for conflict with this burgeoning new economic power. The Soviet Union was rightly seen as a shining alternative to capitalism, and was a ray of hope for millions of average people around the world. And so the United States began its long process of trying to kill this hope, drafting war plans, and even considering a preemptive nuclear strike.
What is the reference? Like, what are we referring to for any of this? Like, what? I haven't watched this video. God, me. 4 more minutes of this. Oh God, I don't know why. Okay, I don't know why I clicked this. It's just, I'm literally just riling myself up like a retard. That's what I am.
This is the context in which we must analyze the Russia-Ukraine conflict. What tends to get lost in mainstream coverage of this war, or any conflict that benefits the imperialist powers, is the human cost of war. Those who sign the papers and make the decrees that send entire generations into the meat grinder will never hold a gun themselves. They'll never lose a child to geopolitical jockeying. Their lifestyle won't be affected. They won't lose their homes to shelling. Their pantries will remain stocked. And their water will always be clean. But that is not the reality for the people being sent to fight, and the loved ones they're desperately trying to protect from pointless escalation and random acts of cruelty inspired by the hate and bitterness of war. As with any active conflict, exact numbers are closely guarded by the combatants. But there's no hiding all the footage that makes its way to Telegram, Twitter, and other more democratized online news sources. Conservatively, tens of thousands of people have been killed since last year, including civilians.
Keep in mind, for everything he's talking about, this is Russia invading Ukraine, right? But notice how he'll never actually say that. It's always like, soldiers being sent, blah, 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 with the implication that, like, Ukrainian soldiers are the ones being sent, or Ukrainian soldiers are the ones being forced to fight by the West, right? He never actually brings that. It is a Russian invasion, you know?
Well as mercenaries flying in from Western countries to hunt their fellow human beings for sport.
Yeah.
We've seen horrific footage
Oh, Edmund, thanks for the $20.
Of homes destroyed, bodies burned beyond recognition, and what looks like evidence of chemical weapons. War is a dirty, bloody business, and it only benefits the ruling class of the involved nations. The conscripts shipped off to fight in some leveled city have no chance of elevated status. Their lives won't be improved by butchering their fellow workers. They will be lucky to return home at all, and most of them with scars both physical and mental that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Meanwhile, those at the top talk of democracy, freedom, national determination, and invoke some mythologized past to fool the peasants into thinking they're dying for a noble cause. They are not. There must be a peaceful resolution to this conflict. We have seen in recent months that the United States remains the primary obstacle to peace in the region. As China attempts to broker a peaceful resolution, the US and its lackeys call ever more loudly for increased weapons shipments and greater Western involvement. Thankfully, this conflict has coincided with the sharpening of contradictions surrounding the US. The once untouchable global hegemon is losing its grip on the rest of the world. Countless Latin American and African countries have broken ties with the US and accepted more mutually beneficial trade agreements with China. Even those countries which the US expects to be loyal, like France, are expressing doubts that the United States is a reliable partner, and are beginning to shift towards the east. What we see as a result is a desperate attempt by the US and its staunchest allies to weaken its economic adversaries by encouraging proxy wars in Eastern Europe and Asia. So far, China—
We are encouraging the proxy wars, by the way. Remember, Russia, in case you forgot, it hasn't been mentioned ever. I don't even know if he said Russia. Russia are the ones invading, by the way.
Has not taken the bait, and instead has stepped into Europe and Asia. So far, China has not taken the bait, and instead has stepped into its role as a key negotiator, recently securing peace between Iran and Saudi Arabia, contributing greatly to ending the war in Yemen, and now, with any luck, helping to peacefully resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It has become increasingly apparent that as the US empire declines, it will become ever more violent and militaristic, a dangerous situation for the rest of the world, as the United States remains the only country on Earth to have used nuclear weapons on human beings. And they did it not once, but twice. The Communist Party of the United States, and the masses of people both here and around the world—
Nuclear weapons aren't even like the worst thing that happened in World War II. Like,
world must call unanimously—
Off topic, what do you think of Vosh's takes on this topic? Have you seen anything? Because Vosh like mirror copied so much of himself off of me, at least as of like 3 or 4 years ago, he manages to somehow hold on to okayish foreign policy takes. Obviously, his whole community and like the social ideology he's a part of like pulls him to the left more and more and more. But of all the left-leaning people, Vosh probably has some of the most okayish, I said very hesitantly, okayish foreign policy takes.
For an end to U.S. involvement not just in Ukraine, but in the South China Sea, in Africa, in Latin America, and everywhere the U.S. war machine has extended its tendrils. We must unequivocally say no to U.S. involvement and no to imperialist war, always. Enough blood has been spilled desperately trying to maintain an economic order that does not serve the people. Capitalism and imperialism remain the greatest evils of our time. And if we are to secure a better future for all of us, it must be dismantled. And we can start by demanding a peaceful resolution to the conflict in Ukraine.
God, I hate people like this. This is the true test of liberalism, is allowing f***ers like this to live here peacefully. It actually is unbelievable to simp that hard for another country. And to lie so much about your own. Okay. I don't know why. How did we get on this tangent of second thought, this loser? Communism and socialism are both economic models, not political ideologies. I love Destiny, but he fumbled a bit here. Okay, on communism, you're absolutely wrong. On socialism, you're, in effect, almost completely wrong. To say that socialism is only an economic model and doesn't apply any sort of political organization, like even capitalism implies some level of political organization. For instance, it would be hard for me to imagine like a monarch with a capitalist government or a capitalist economy, a real monarch, not like a play monarch like in the UK. Or actually, even if anything, that supports my point, right? Like, or it'd be hard to imagine like an authoritarian dictatorship, unless the capitalist was literally just like the state, I guess. Like in China's case, you can argue China's like a state capitalist country. But communism and socialism generally imply things relating to political organization as well. But also they suck economically anyways. Wait, so but even if we just talk about it economically, they suck. So hold on. People say cut a liberal and a fascist, please. Liberals were the ones that beat the goddamn Nazis, okay? We did.
The communists or the socialists, all these motherfuckers wanted to make alliances with the Nazis.
True,
they did. With Molotov, Ribbentrop, whatever, they did it. And then afterwards, a lot of these fucking lefties will point out like, oh, what about Operation Paperclip, where we took all the Nazis and we brought some literal scientists to capture their knowledge and everything. But also, the Soviet Union did the exact same thing, and they took more than us. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like Kim or whatever. This operation, they took over 2,000 of those German scientists, and they took them into their country. So the idea that the United States was alone in this, taking stuff, like, you have to take the researchers, otherwise they'll all go to the other team. I mean, like, what are you gonna do? I mean, other than all the researchers?
Steal
like,
their information. That's what you do. You steal their information.
Yeah, but I mean, that's basically what we did by bringing them over, right?
Well,
Bro doesn't know much about history. What did I say that was wrong? This is the most baseline knowledge, historical take I've ever had that this was hearing. Okay, what was wrong? Destiny never heard of Gladio. Nope. Operation Gladio was the code name for the clandestine stay-behind operations of armed resistance that were organized by the Western Union, founded in 1948, secondly by NATO and by the CIA, in collaboration with the Western Union, also the Brussels Treaty Organization, to the Italian branch of the NATO state-behind organization. While the use of assassination, psychological warfare, and false flag operations to delegitimize left-wing parties in Western European countries. What does it have to do with anything I said? It's so clear why Destiny talks to people who know nothing. I like how this criticism is always levied at me, and then when I finally end up talking to your favorite content creator online, we realize that he's actually a fucking moron. He thinks the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was actually real? Okay. We turned a boat of Jews around. Cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds is a great saying and oh so accurate. Thank you. How are these people on my fucking... We need to do more liberal stuff, okay? What are these lefties doing on my fucking TikTok, all right? Not good. You should ask TikTok for debates. Yeah. TikTok is like 90% lefties. Parts of it, but there's also parts of TikTok that are like hardcore far-right crazy shit too. Okay, Destiny, but Stalin was going to invade Germany at some point? I don't know if I believe that.
This Destiny guy has to be a psyop. There's like literally no other explanation. Without fail, every time Hasan does anything, he like literally this was within 2 minutes. He responds. It's crazy. He's like, oh, I don't cover the breaking news when Hasan was like, you know, doing stuff about Gaza, right?
Like what's your point, Destiny? Actually, Hasan has said he doesn't cover breaking news.
He really does just like consume all of your thoughts. It's so fun. It's so weird. It's so weird. This is every Destiny fan. They'll like literally watch a hospital get bombed and be like, I'm not sure if that was actually true or not. I'll need a source for that. And like, this is a psyop. It has to be. He's like designed. He's the centrist designed in a lab. I need time to gather all the facts. Dude, do you know how quick this kind of thing happens? It's like we don't have time to like. He's a plant. He has to be.
We don't have time to. Wait, but the thing is, you do have time. You're a streamer. You sit here and do nothing. It's not going to change if you wait a day or two. Why does I link this? This is so stupid. This has to be a psyop. My psyop is I feel like I'm getting psyop by a psyop. All right. Holy f***, I'd be shaking. Goated clip though, Caroline. Really did eat and left exactly 0 crumbs in Amy Schumer's career. Love your tweets. Keep up the good work, friend. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Or oh my god, Josh. Oh my god. I am sending you my thoughts and prayers. Is this person like 14? H3H3 underscore productions, I think is like the anti-fan sub. And they all they do is shit on Ethan and Hila here. I've watched since the beginning. Oh, and me. Ooh, Jesus. Oh, I'm glad I'm so popular to you guys. 729 comments. Since our Destiny likes to brigade this sub, let's make fun of their man. Right, yeah, see, like, that's annoying. We're brigading. But it's like, who are you guys? You're all Hasan fans. But, like, you guys don't even have a home that you're coming from, so it doesn't count as brigading for you guys. You just naturally infest and infect every other community that Hasan tries to talk to. Like, it's so annoying. Yeah. But this comes up a lot in the LSF sub, where people will post that. They'll post that big web page that shows where other people are coming from, and the overlap with my subreddit is always the highest. And people are like, oh, look, that proves that Destiny brigades us more than anyone else. Like, well, no, that just proves that my community has another subreddit to go to. Clearly, LSF is like ran by like the Miz Kids, the Juicers, kind of a little bit the DGGers. We haven't been there as much recently, and then like the Hasanabi heads, right? Although I don't know if they've been there as much recently either. But like, it's huge factions that run LSF, but my community just happens to have another subreddit to go to, so we get blamed for brigading, even though everybody else technically, yeah. But whatever. Okay, I don't care. Complain about it. Colluding on community notes may not work super well because CN approval only goes through when people who previously disagreed agree on the quality of the note. Sure. I would never try to like collude or fuck with the community notes system. I think the community notes system works pretty well as is. I don't think I would ever want to try to like externally fuck with that or like brigade it or anything like that. LSF is kind of dying. There's just not a lot going on with Twitch these days. I mean, I think there is. The problem with LSF as a subreddit, though, is it just... I think, like, if they post-mortem the sub in a year or two, I think the issue with LSF is it just became way too insulated. And streamers... how do I feel about this? I don't feel like streamers should have ever gotten a direct line to the mods. I think that was a mistake. I know the mods have tried to do their best in keeping it open to everybody, but... I don't think that streamers should have ever been given a direct line to the mods, because it basically turned LSF into like a PR subreddit for just a small group of streamers. Man. The first casualty of the war is the truth. Is this real or was this Photoshop? Did he really tweet this? Palestinian boy shares his bread with a dog. This is that stupid I debated on Pearl show. Maybe, do Muslims like not have a lot of pets, maybe? I'm trying to be like... I'm trying to be charitable. Maybe they just don't have like cats and dogs in the Middle East? I don't know. It could be a dog that's gotten plastic surgery to look like a cat. Palestinian boy shares his bed with a dog. Why are we even posting shit like this? What the
Well, I just wanted to bring to your attention something about Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. I know we talked about it a while ago.
Yeah.
And I just wanted you to be informed about what's going on since you were talking about the primaries.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lawsuit in Colorado right now about making it so that Trump is not allowed on the primaries in Colorado. And that's before a trial court in Colorado where the standing issues are not a problem. And basically the petitioners are saying that Trump is not eligible under Colorado election law and that the Secretary of State is required to take him off the primary ballots because he's not eligible under the 14th Amendment.
That's interesting. Do states have any right, or is there any law about who's eligible to run in a primary?
So that there's a interpretation question of Colorado state law, which is, does Colorado state law require the Secretary of State of Colorado to take off people who are not qualified to be president from the primary ballot?
Yeah.
The Colorado primary elections are on March 4th, 2004. And there's a bunch of procedural issues that still need to be resolved, but a lot of them so far have been resolved in the petitioner's favor. But just keep this in mind for a second. If all these procedural issues related to what Colorado law says about what the secretary has to do, if they're all resolved in the petitioner's favor, and like I said, there's a hearing on October 30th, then the judge will have to rule on the substance of the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
And that claim will be appealable to the Colorado Supreme Court.
Yeah.
If you look up right now the makeup of the Colorado Supreme Court, it's all Democratic appointees.
Sure. But I mean, it's certainly going to the Supreme Court next, right?
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So like this is the primary ballot. The primary is on March 3rd or March 4th, 2004. And if the Colorado Supreme Court says, there's a disqualification order below and we're not going to stay it because we agree with the lower court, then Trump is going to have to appeal that to the Supreme Court. Otherwise, other states are going to start getting ideas. But here's the kicker. The primary election for Colorado, again, is March 4th, 2004. The Supreme Court's going to have to rule if the Colorado Supreme Court gets this before then, right?
Yeah.
Because imagine that the Supreme Court is inclined to agree that Trump is disqualified. Wouldn't it be an absolute disaster if that happened after the primary already happened? And let's say the Republicans have
wouldn't
a
you
nominee,
I imagine reasonably you could push for some sort of injunction or something, right?
a stay, right?
Yeah, or a stay,
So
yeah.
but whatever's going to happen with that, I mean, the Supreme Court's going to be, assuming that the lower court says that he's disqualified as a primary candidate, the Supreme Court's going to have a lot of pressure to rule on that before
Yeah,
the primaries
absolutely.
occur.
I imagine it would take precedence over any other ruling they're working on, right?
Can you imagine what the situation would be like if the Republicans put up Trump as a nominee, and then after that happens, when he's already on the ballots for all these states in 2004, the Supreme Court says he's ineligible.
Yeah, it would be a disaster.
And so my sense is if the Colorado trial court comes to a decision that Trump is disqualified for the primary ballots, and it moves up the Colorado appellate court system, you could get a ruling from the Supreme Court rather quickly before this primary on where they're leaning.
Sure.
And I think the bigger problem is what would happen if the Supreme Court says he's disqualified, but the Republicans put him up anyway for the election, and everyone votes and he wins, and you have the Supreme Court saying, he's ineligible, but the people voted for him. So just a quick little update there for folks who are following along. That issue is coming, and I think the Supreme Court's going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
That'll be wild.
What do you think?
I mean, really, it's just it's really embarrassing and shameful that we're even having to have this conversation. The idea that this is who the Republicans elected and look to guide them is already shameful, and the idea that he's still as popular as he is in the Republican Party is also shameful. I think it's probably one of our darker moments, or will be, in U.S. history. Yeah, I don't know. It's all pretty sad and pretty depressing. So, yeah, I don't know. In terms of what'll happen on the ground, I mean, obviously, political ramifications will be rough, or social ramifications will be rough if Trump is disqualified. The best case socio-political situation that could happen would be Trump running and losing the election, right?
Right.
A bad
Agreed.
thing that happens, I would say Trump winning the election would be really bad. It's arguable if it might be worse sociopolitically if Trump is like disbarred from running, right? So
but it would matter, don't you think, about the reaction if it were done before the primaries or after the primaries? That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I think before the
that's-
primaries would be better at least. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
And if the Supreme Court says, like, doesn't issue a stay, let's say because they get the case and they're like, listen, one of the standards for granting a stay or an injunction or something like that is you need to show that you're probably going to win on the merits. And they say, we're not going to stay the Colorado order that's saying that you're not allowed on the primary ballots. That's a kind of signal to, all it takes is like that signal. And I think swing states that have Democratic state actors will start disqualifying him from primary ballots.
If there's
And I
no
think they'll be
stay?
like, if there's no stay.
Yeah, of course.
Imagine.
Yeah.
And the Colorado, again, the primary's on March 4th. That's within months.
Yeah.
But that I don't know. I think that even no matter what, it's kind of because they're going to claim that it's like fraudulent. That
Yeah,
they're
of
stealing it
course,
from
because
him.
none of those people even believe in any part of our system now anyway, so.
Yeah, but again, just another way to show to you that like different states have different mechanisms, and the Colorado court system here has a particular kind of election lawsuit which allows anybody to sue any like voter eligible elector for the primaries to sue under this law. And so that might be different in different states, so you might have some piecemeal stuff going on.
Sure.
But
I've heard that there's now like multiple personal attorneys that have flipped, I think 3 or more now that are
yeah, that's
testifying
what
against Trump
criminal
in the RICO case. And is that Georgia?
that's in Georgia.
Yeah.
So there's Jenna Ellis, I think Ken Chesbrough, and Sidney Powell. Do you remember Sidney Powell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all pled guilty. Jenna Ellis to
Which and their RICO
felony.
charges. So them pleading guilty is
well,
really rough,
they didn't,
right?
They didn't
Or-
plead to that stuff.
They didn't?
so-
Okay.
Yeah. So each of the defendants did something different. Jenna Ellis, I think, pled to a felony.
Okay.
Which was essentially assisting to get a false document.
Gotcha.
It's just getting the train moving, and the earlier you try to cooperate with law enforcement, the better your deal's going to be. There's reports now that Mark Meadows has cooperated with a special counsel and is going to potentially testify against Trump, although his lawyer is like saying that's not true. But
It's really disappointing to me that I truly don't think at this point you could show a Trumple anything that would convince them of anything, right? Like you would hope, for instance, I'm going to be honest, because I've always said this. I've always said that like Fox News typically doesn't like outright lie. Like they at least the reporting will try to do their best in the reporting. The Dominion lawsuit stuff, that was pretty sad that a lot of their pundits seemed to know explicitly that, yeah, these claims are total bullshit. And they were even trying to get Trump to run away from the claim so they could stop saying it. But like to knowingly lie, to lose a defamation lawsuit on public companies that badly, to bail on that case, that's unbelievable. And like that doesn't mean anything to any of the Trumples. They probably still think Dominion and Hugo Chavez and all this shit like still rig the machines. All the charges, all the statements in the indictments, I truly don't think there's a single thing you could show a Trumple at this point. They would claim it's all fabricated, it's all made up, none of it is real. Yeah. But
I'm not going to name names, but there was someone who I spoke who I think should know better, who repeated the Georgia under the table thing. You know those claims that there's ballots underneath the tables? They put ballots.
Are you
there?
talking about one of the early videos that showed them taking a box of ballots from under the table?
Yeah.
And I
they
think
were
the
just, like,
federal judge, I think that reviewed it, said that if you looked at the longer tapes, you can see them bringing in the box of ballots like at the beginning of the day, like they were just there.
There's like nothing malicious there.
Yeah.
And it's like the most talked about fake elector or fake, I don't know, fraudulent vote claim that there is.
Yeah.
And it's still being repeated around.
Yeah.
On Twitter, I'll have people, because I'll always be like, this is a fair and free election. You'll have geniuses adding me with like videos that have been debunked for they're like many articles saying, it doesn't matter. The damage has been done. And I mean, really, what would it take to show you that Trump, or to show a Trumple that he's guilty of anything? I think the answer is really nothing. They don't even care to inform themselves about what the trials are about. There are a few kind of Trump-aligned lawyers who will be on Twitter and be vocal, but They don't care to inform themselves on the facts, and if they'll say the evidence is made up. They'll say it's not a crime. They'll say, well, Trump was just following the advice of his lawyers, and his lawyers told him that it was okay to ask Pence to certify the election for him, for both of them.
Sorry, hold on real quick. So Pisco might agree with me that a settlement doesn't necessarily mean you would have won or lost on the merits of the case. However, that being said, pretty sure Fox pulled the plug on that lawsuit like the day before they were supposed to walk into court, and they paid the largest settlement in the history, I think, of any defamation-related lawsuit ever, and they fired their largest talent from their network over probably this issue. So to pretend like Fox just settled, like they just didn't want to deal with a lawsuit, I think is a little delusional.
It is delusional for other reasons too, because there was a dispositive motion. There are numerous dispositive motions to like deal with this on summary judgment, which is a way of getting rid of the case without going to trial on summary judgment. And one of the issues that was decided was that these were false claims. And the only question at the end was either damages or whether the actors were malicious for purposes of public figure, public media stuff, which there's higher standards for public issues.
Hold on, I'm so sorry. I feel better talking about Israel Palestine than Trump is, because at least it's other people around the world. At Destiny, sure, most of the concerns have proven being incorrect, but what about the article talking about how activists save democracy by using shady methods biasing outcomes? Okay, I know exactly the article you're talking about. I don't remember the name. They used a really provocative title for the article. It's this. You're talking about this in Time. The secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. All of you retarded, inbred, knuckle-dragging, 20 IQ, Trump-voting dipshits that should honestly take night flights out to the Pacific and be dropped off, okay? This article is not about shady shit happening, okay? It's about a collection of people that did their best to maintain and ensure election integrity. If you're gonna quote this article, go fucking read it, you retard. Why would Time write an article about shady shit done to rig the election? It doesn't even make sense. I know this is exactly the article you're referring to, and I know you've never read it, and I know exactly the types of people that tweet this headline and try to claim that it says something it doesn't. Read the full article and then buy a rope. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
God. No, that's fine. I've never had I've had some difficulty getting people to come on stream or to come on and like debate the actual merits of any other than the crazies of fraud stuff or the fraud allegations. But it's actually a lot of work to inform. It's almost like the Hunter Biden barista stuff.
You've got to read on every single thing.
It's hard.
On every single random conspiracy. It was like for COVID and vaccines, like I had to keep up to date on every single new Joe Rogan episode, every single new Dr. Malone tweet, because there was always another type of reason why the vaccine was going to poison you and kill you and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
I don't want to tell you the number of roads I've walked, like unraveled, where it's Wisconsin lawsuits about certain voter initiatives. This was done unconstitutionally because it was done not through a state legislature, but it was done unilaterally by the governor or whatever. Claims about actual fraud, claims about the Dominion stuff, and whether or not it was connected to the internet or not, whether or not Bush v. Gore says one thing versus the other. Like, there are 1,000 different roads that you can walk down in saying that the election was stolen, and if you're not fully read up on
the exact details on like everything, and you have to know the details, because all of these people will always like preferentially cite what's actually happened for every single thing. So you have to like be asking questions.
Yeah, bro. You been good?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm doing great. Feel amazing.
Personally, everything's good, and drugs are working.
Yeah, they help me with my personal issues too, my relationship issues. I can navigate conversations, fights, pay attention to people better. When I'm hanging out with somebody, I can give them more like focused time. I don't have to be on my phone. Yeah, it's super. It's helped like every single aspect of my life. Yes, it's unbelievable.
Damn. So are you like an advocate, or is that just like your personal situation that you...
I mean, I'd advocate it for if you need it, yeah. My brain is wired for drugs, for amphetamines though. So yeah, if you need it, I think it can probably help, yeah. I think it literally helps every single area of my life. My mood is elevated, my relationships are better, I can communicate better, I focus more on people when I hang out with them one-on-one. Yeah, and then that's on top of like the ordinary, like I've got good focus when I want to read stuff, like Yeah, I don't have any of the negative side effects. Like my sleep yesterday, I got 96% on my phone. I don't get headaches, I don't get stomach aches. I'm not moody. Some people say it turns them into zombies or whatever. I've never felt any of that. So yeah, but who knows? Maybe like 3 months from now, maybe I'll build a tolerance and hate myself or something. Yeah, who knows?
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna leave you to it. I think it's awesome that you're doing more research and best of luck on it.
Yeah, thanks. How are you doing? How's your life? Where are you at right now? What state?
I'm doing good. I'm in New York.
Okay.
I'm back.
You're
awesome.
back, baby. We're so back.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's really cool. So I was in Australia for a while, on a vacation, and it was a great country. Love Australia.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
Think you're gonna move down there?
No, don't think so. Everything closes at like 8. That's the one thing.
That's like all of Europe. It's really weird. I'll be like in Stockholm with Mel, and it'll be like 7:30, and I'll be like, "Hey, do you want to go out to eat?" And it's like they don't have. There's like 24/7 stuff like does not exist in these countries. And if you go to Germany on Sunday, like they just close everything for church. It's fucking weird. Yeah.
Wild.
America's the land, the king of 24/7. We like invented that shit.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's open like past 9 or 10 is like Macca's. That's what they call it. They say Macca's.
Yeah.
If you order an iced coffee, they put like 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream in it. I went there. I was like, "Can I just get an iced coffee?" And they're like, "Sure, yeah." And they just give me milk with 2 big scoops of vanilla ice cream in it and just like a little bit of espresso on it.
Base.
Their politics is on just a different level than America. I feel like they combine a lot of elements of UK and American politics, but everyone is all about climate change and environmental stuff. And the fights are on totally different levels than America.
It is a little
nice
embarrassing to go from like watching political debates from other countries and then you go to ours where like their political debates look like C-SPAN and then ours are like WCW or WWF or whatever. It's insane.
They do still have some crazy. Some of the liberal party there, which isn't liberal, and their liberal party is like the conservative Murdoch people, right?
Yeah.
But it is nuts to. It seems like a lot of the QAnon type crazy stuff that we're dealing with is just on another level to what they have to do.
Yeah. Fun fact about Australia. Did you know? I'm pretty sure in Australia, I think law firms can have private investors. You ever heard of that before?
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Very weird.
There are ethic limitations for that in America.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I don't think you can have any private investment in law firms in the United States, right?
They're usually like limited liability partnerships.
Sure.
Or there's other forms that they can take, but yeah, there's limitations on investments for sure because you have some perverse incentives that are possible.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
not that those incentives can't get channeled in other ways.
Sure.
Like a lot of the plaintiff's attorneys style class action stuff. I don't know, have you guys ever gotten emails from like NVIDIA or these kinds of places that they've settled something because you're part of a class and you didn't even know it?
For class action suits. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten like emails and it's like I think Wells Fargo offered me like $5 because of their checking account opening shit or whatever. Yeah.
So they're the real parties are the lawyers. So there can be, but on the other hand, you can say they're doing a public service because when Subway says it's a foot long, and it's only I actually don't know what
inches or whatever.
I think that's because they toast it, and the toasting process gets it smaller or whatever. I actually don't know the disposition on that particular lawsuit, but no one is gonna, in their right mind, just one person is gonna sue on that based on false advertising. But you need someone to enforce these kind of little pennies, the marginal thefts that are happening on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, like people that do like short research in like markets. Like it's good to have people checking for companies fucking around, even if it seems like a bad thing. Like class action lawyers might look like greedy fucks, but you need people that are kind of doing this type of fact checking to keep people honest in society, right?
100p.
Yeah,
100%.
True.
What are you most looking forward to in the next 2 months?
Obviously, the Ben Shapiro debate next month.
Will it be on Israel-Palestine?
I want it to be I want it to be on Biden's legislative record and Biden versus Trump. That's what I really want it to be, like a hardcore, like factually, like what legislation did Biden pass? What did it do? What did Trump pass? What can we expect him to do? Who's better for America?
Biden has to walk a really... listen, I don't pretend to know much about international politics or anything, but I just me reading the tea leaves, Biden has to walk a very weird line where he has to appear to be super, super, super in favor of Israel at all times and help them a lot, but at the same time he has to be careful about alienating a lot of the pro-Palestine sentiment
Sure.
among the left, and then also be concerned about not escalating to a regional war with Iran and posturing.
I feel like
and then
one
at
of
the
the
same time
things,
trying to win the election, right?
Yeah.
And not let Trump get in office.
for sure, I feel like Biden has done a phenomenal job foreign policy wise of drawing the limits of U.S. involvement. Like, we're not going to put troops in Ukraine. We're not going to be directly involved in Israel. We are going to send humanitarian aid to the people in Gaza. We are going to learn from our mistakes in 9/11 and not overreact. We are going to encourage Israel to show restraint. Like, I think Biden has done a phenomenal, or if Biden is a puppet, whoever's pulling the strings. I think that, I think Biden has exceeded to an unimaginable level, like all of any personal expectations I had for him being a good leader. Is pretty insane.
So Shapiro comes at you and says, well, Trump was just a way better foreign policy president than Biden. What do you say to that?
I'm probably just going to take the things that I know, and I need to get more in the weeds for all of my knowledge. So, like, for instance, I would say statements like Angela Merkel saying that Europe can no longer look to the United States for leadership, I think that is deplorable. Other presidents around the world saying poor things about our leader. I think the Australian prime minister did. I believe the Mexican president did. That's deplorable. Unilaterally withdrawing us from the Iranian nuclear agreement. I thought that was deplorable. Photo ops and direct meetings with Kim Jong-il from North Korea without securing any form of concession was deplorable, right? That they were doing tests, like the next week. I think even Pence was on the record, like, swearing because of how irritated he was from that. Oh, it was Kim Jong-un, sorry. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem just seems stupid.
That seems
in
like
Israel.
But he's gonna hit you on. Well, I don't know
Made
if he's gonna
peace
do
in the
this,
Middle
or if you're
East.
gonna talk about it.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
I need to read more about that. Whatever peace
do,
deal he
because
quote unquote. Yeah.
The Abraham Accords.
Yeah.
Put that on your list, because that a lot of people who are pro-Palestine say having Israel have better relations with other Arab states actually takes away one of the few avenues of hope that Palestinians have, and so that's something that you should know about. And then Trump's foreign policy generally, if you're going to compare and contrast Biden's record, it sounds like a lot of what you said is PR, or he'll say it's just PR. Like, who cares what these people think? Merkel was the one who was cozying up to Putin in the first place, so why should we listen to her? And like the one concrete thing you say is the Iran deal. Right now, do you really think that we should be warmer relations to Iran? They just funded Hamas and they attacked Israel, and you're in favor of Israel. So why are you in favor of the Iran nuclear deal?
Because I mean, it would give us more leverage, right? If we were
I'm
still
not
like in a
saying this
friendly.
belief as me,
Oh yeah,
I'm
no,
just-
yeah, I understand. Yeah. I mean, for on the ground, for more concrete stuff. I mean, I got to point to the fact that, well, you didn't like attacking the Middle East. Trump bombed that Syrian airport. Trump abandoned our allies, the Kurdish people. Trump maintained a U.S. presence in Syria to run those oil fields. Trump was a coward and wouldn't pull us out of Afghanistan, and he kicked the can down the road for Biden to deal with the I forget the name of the agreements that he signed with the Taliban to push out our U.S. withdrawal. He didn't do anything else about Russia occupying Crimea. In terms of actual actions taken, and I'm sure there's more things I can think about. Yeah.
Are you more comfortable getting criticisms from like a neocon perspective, where people are like, yeah, he shouldn't have gotten out of Afghanistan, he shouldn't have abandoned the Kurds, but Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan was worse than the withdrawal from northern Syria? Like, are you more comfortable with dealing with those criticisms, or the criticisms that are like, the only problem with Trump is he didn't get Afghanistan soon enough? Like, which side of the conservative?
I don't like that Trump had this weird thing where he had a way of trying to put things off on the next administration so that he wouldn't have to deal with it. The two huge things I remember for that was, one was the Afghanistan withdrawal. He negotiated that with the Taliban so that it would take place after his administration, number one. And then number two, a really big thing was, let's see if I can remember this. He wanted to do COVID stimulus where I believe he would forgive, I think it was low incomes people's payment on FICA taxes, but if he didn't win the next election, he had it set so there was like a sunset clause or something, so that next year, if he didn't win and extend it, all of those taxes would come back and you'd have to owe like a lump sum to the government. It was like, that was like an insane provision that I think he tried to get thrown in. It was wild. I'm sure if I dig more, I bet he had other things that he did like that. But yeah, I think Trump was notorious for trying to kick problems down the road. And also, no major legislation besides the tax cuts. What's up with that?
I don't know.
Why didn't he
You'll
get
have to
anything
ask.
done? Trump talked forever about an infrastructure bill. The Republicans talked for 8 years about repeal and replace Obamacare. Trump, he did nothing.
Yeah, he was stopped by rhinos.
Yeah, clearly, yeah. And Biden manages with a 50-50 Senate to do so much, and Trump sold himself. Remember this also, because I hate that I can criticize Trump for the president that he was. However, everybody needs to remember the president that conservatives said that Trump would be, because Trump was sold to us as the businessman and the great negotiator. We were supposed to get a record amount of Republicans and Democrats coming together, bipartisan support for Trump legislation, bipartisan support for these huge federal everything, right? He said infrastructure, repeal and replace, all these different things, bringing back businesses to America. He did none of that. All we got were tax cuts, which is business as usual, and record deficit spending all the time, even before COVID under Trump.
On the Jerusalem thing, what if he says, well, if it was so bad to move the embassy to Jerusalem, why hasn't Biden reversed it?
I don't even know what the process would be on that, and I don't know if it would be okay. It would be good to reverse it. Just like I don't know if it would be good necessarily for Biden to hop back into the Iranian nuclear deal, because it makes the United States foreign policy look schizophrenic, right? What about the USMCA? Hold on. People talk about how horrible NAFTA was and the USMCA was such an improvement. The USMCA is like NAFTA plus. It's not dramatically different. I think like there were like 3 provisions that were changed. The USMCA was not this massive change from NAFTA. If you liked NAFTA, you probably liked the USMCA. He tried to claim that was some massive new deal negotiated. Bullshit. All right, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Are you getting triggered by
No,
YouTube
just Trump was
or?
like legitimately on a factual basis. Trump was just a dog president. Like, if you were a hard conservative, you should dislike Trump because he didn't do anything. And somehow people try to sell this idea that he was so effective, like Trumpers do. And it's the reason why they liked Trump was because of what he said on Twitter. Unironically, that's the start and the stop of people's appreciation for Trump was that he owned the libs. Like, these people don't even care about anything related to policy or the United States or anything. It's so stupid.
I mean, I agree. I think that's true. Because I think that if Trump came out in favor of universal health care, he'd carry the most of his base with him.
Probably, yeah. He could literally, yeah, for sure. The only thing he couldn't carry them on was vaccines, apparently, but yeah.
True. Do you think that the position on... so his position on vaccines and on abortion seems to be more moderate than some people on the right.
Well, his positions on abortion were pretty unhinged. His position on the vaccine, he doesn't have a real position on the vaccine. The only reason why Donald Trump is pro-vaccine is because he wants credit for warp speed for pushing it through. That's the only reason. Because if it was under a Democrat, he would probably be an anti-vaxxer. Remember, people forget this sometimes. Trump was the leader of the birther movement. You know that, right? Him and Jeff or Arpaio or whatever. Yeah, like those guys were like the head of that. Get Obama to push the birth certificate, right? Yeah. And then even when he published the birth certificate, people were like, "Oh, it's photoshopped." God, fuck me, dude.
That reminds me of Cenk Uygur's run for president.
Yeah, that's unhinged, but you know, Cenk is Cenk.
I think the people who say that he's eligible it's nonsense. But just to tie it all back to the Section 3 and 14th Amendment before I get out of your hair, don't you think that there should be a mechanism to sue whatever Secretary of State to get Cenk delisted from the ballots? And don't you think
will he even be listed on the ballots
for the primary ballots? Let's say.
Will he be?
I think he's trying, right? Isn't he running for president?
Yeah, but will anybody list him? I don't know. I guess it's funny because now we're going to come up to, because remember when we had our debate initially, one of us, it was either me or you, brought up the example of like, well, what if a person is underage, right? What if somebody tries to run and they're 31? Like, what's the process for not listing them? But then the counter argument is, it's so obviously not. Like, if you're underage, like people who just not list you. But yeah, who has standing to sue, or what is the process for moving? Yeah, who knows? We'll see.
You support his candidacy?
Do I support Cenk's candidate? No.
What about this new Democratic representative who's running for president? I actually don't remember his name.
I don't know who it is, but I mean, no, I don't generally celebrate running against your incumbents.
All right, man. Well, listen, nice talking to you. Always appreciate it, and have a good one.
Yeah, I love you. Be careful. Oh,
yeah.
Also, there was that one more good thing too. Trump constantly shit on China, talking about how he was going to fight against China, do the blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure all of the tariffs that Trump tried to do on China have been like unanimously panned as being ineffective. Our boy Biden comes out with the CHIPS Act, and now you've got like every major semiconductor fabricator manufacturer in the world trying to set up like massive new businesses in the United States for fabrication plants because of how the billions of dollars that were allocated in that CHIPS Act for domestic manufacturing of like wafers and stuff. So yeah, sorry. Okay,
do you give him credit for the economy, Bidenomics?
Biden?
Yeah.
Do I give Biden credit for the economy?
Because I know what if you're asked the same question about Trump's economy, you say no.
No, I don't, of course not. But Trump didn't pass any legislation or do anything for the economy, right? That was all riding high off of Obama. If anything, I would be critical of Trump on the economy because I don't know how much Trump pressuring the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates low was actually effective. I don't know if that influenced their decision or not, but interest rates definitely should have come up under Trump.
If you ever get into debate with Shapiro or anybody really, will you ever cite the economy? Look how good the economy is doing under Biden.
No, I generally don't give presidents much credit unless they are like directly intervening somehow. No, I would just look at legislation and what that impacts. Like economies are huge. They largely move independent of whatever the fuck the president says. If I'm going to give Biden credit for things, it's going to be stuff related to like his infrastructure package or, stimulus and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's because you don't want to take responsibility for the inflation. Do you think the economy is doing well?
That's a hard one. I don't know. Maybe once I'm done with this, I should. Actually, once I'm done with this, we should do economy research. It really does seem like every economic indicator is up for literally all generations. And I can't tell if the economy is actually rough and like all of the numbers are missing it, or if there's just like political sentiment and it's causing people to think the economy is bad. Like even for instance, for like Zoomers, like Generation Z home ownership and everything is on track or exceeding prior generations. But if you talk to Zoomers, all of them are saying none of them can buy houses, it's all unaffordable, right? So even though they've got more student loan debt than their predecessors, they're also still affording houses better than they ever have generation after generation after generation, despite rising home costs and everything. So like inflation has been falling, GDP increase has been insane. Like productivity is like tracking some wages, not all of them are increasing. Oh, the massive squeeze on employment right now has caused wages at the bottom to rise pretty dramatically. Gas prices have fallen pretty substantially. I think they're back on track to where they were before. I have to go look up those numbers because I think they are. But like everybody around, and even the media is like writing like somehow United States still not recession. Where's the recession? It's right around the corner. And then like last quarter's GDP growth is like 4.9%. It's like, I don't know. So
yeah.
Do you think the economy's bad, or do you have any feelings on that? Or
I think that the macro indicators, to the extent that I have an opinion on it, and I only have a bachelor's economics degree, so nobody should listen to me. In terms of like the traditional things you look to, which is growth, inflation, wages, right? All that stuff seems to be positive, right? But for whatever reason, people aren't feeling it. People don't feel happy about it. When you ask them, is the economy doing well? They say no. And no one thinks that Biden, well, I shouldn't say that, but like on the economy, issue to issue between him and Trump crushes Biden on the economy.
Sure.
Does that bother? I mean, that's always been kind of a Republican advantage in the economy in terms of people's perceptions, but it's humongous. And so,
yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because like the economy under Trump was better, but like arguably the economy under Trump was insanely overheated, right? We'd been running 0% interest for like 10 years or something, right? Like the housing market was unbelievably unsustainable. Trump was spending like crazy as president. He cut taxes. He didn't pair with spending cuts. He was running massive budget deficits. Like we had under Obama, we were getting like 10 to 15% year over year growth. Under Trump, we had like 20% year over year growth. It's way too much.
You kind of changed the question though. You were asking me, is the economy good? And whether or not Trump exists, the American people are saying with one voice clearly, in terms of the percentage, if you care about it, and polling data, if you care about it, if you believe it, no. And guess what?
I understand.
With the economy.
I'm just
Why
saying,
is that?
I'm just saying that people's perception of what a good economy is a little bit detached from reality. So, for instance, if you would ask people in 2006, the economy is f***ing amazing, right? Because if you're buying houses or investing in property, holy shit, you're go. So there's probably a lot of people, if you ask them in the lead up to like, I don't know, what, like 2004 to 2007, they're like, the economy is amazing. I want this economy again. It's like, no, you dumb motherfucker. That's like asking somebody coming out of a toxic relationship, was your last relationship good? And like, well, yeah, when it was good, my relationship was really good. Your relationship was horrible. It was toxic the whole time. What are you talking about? But they're running off the highs of unsustainable markets and unsustainable deficit spending, right? So it's impossible to contend with a market that's overheated and headed towards disaster, right? You can't contend with that, but people are going to remember those times. And yeah, it's a difficult thing to fight with that perception, you know?
What do you go with if you're selling Biden? And listen, if it comes down to Biden and Trump, I want to be on the front lines of that fight for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What's your message? What's your message to people saying, listen, shit's not good. Cheese costs too much. Eggs cost too much. What do you say to them? You say, well, you idiot. Like, no, you don't understand. When Trump, it was overheating, and really your real wage growths are probably on average increasing. And so it shouldn't make that much difference to you. What's your response to that kind of like the angst from middle America where they're saying this is all, and I see how much money we're spending in foreign conflicts. Why shouldn't that money go to Americans, and Biden's just going to give it all away? I
mean, like, bro, it's so hard. I don't even know how you because like all the talking points here are all ideologically driven. So like they have almost no attachment whatsoever to a factual basis. So like, how do you even begin to have that conversation? Like, my guess would be,
well, we need to, right? And we can't just say, no, you guys are idiots and you don't know anything about
here's
economy.
The thing, like, Americans will decide votes on things like the U.S. debt, right? But if I ask an American, like, how does a treasury bill bond work? Like, where does that come from? Can you explain the process? My guess would be probably less than 5% of Americans could explain how, you know, the United States issues debt, or what does it mean that the United States is the largest holder of U.S. Treasury? Like, nobody would even know how that means. But they have very, very, very strong opinions about it, right? What does it mean, you know, interest payments on the U.S. debt, or that the U.S. debt is so high? Or like, is it really the case that if we spend money in Ukraine, if we stop doing that we can spend it here? Does it all come out of the same purse? Is there a purse? Is it unlimited? Like, people have very strong opinions about the reality, or they have very strong opinions about like the policy implications, but they don't understand any of the underlying mechanisms. So how do you even approach something like that?
Why should we pay for a war in Ukraine?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, I have to pay $5 for a box of eggs.
Yeah.
What are you telling that person? And shouldn't we already know the answer to that?
Or people look at like, we sent $100 billion to Ukraine, and the majority of that was like, those are a lot of like old weapons and shit. It was just valued that way, right? We're not actually sending them like cash. We did send, I do believe we did do some financial support, but yeah,
But it's billions. So when people ask me like, is the economy doing well? In some sense, that, like, I don't know, the objective indicators are decent, are good, and it looks like we're having a quote soft landing, but people don't feel it, and I don't know how to convince them, and I don't know if is it just on net we're all doing well, and actually people are not doing so well if you look at any particular group of people who are pivotal voters or something.
I don't know. It's so hard. Yeah, like you'll have people with like iPhone 15s that like just graduated college with a degree in engineering, like entering the workforce making $80,000 a year, and they'll be like, yeah, I can't buy a house in LA, and I've got, $30,000 in student loan debt. The economy's horrible. And it's like, bro, like, I don't know what to say. Yeah.
I feel like so many of these complaints are, well, it's not Biden's fault, right? So if a Trump or someone, a swing voter, that says, when Trump was in office, we didn't have all these wars popping off. I'll be like, well, that's not Biden's fault. It's not Biden's fault that they invaded that. Well, when Trump was in office, we didn't have this rampant inflation. Well, it's not Biden's fault that we had inflation. And, actually we're doing pretty well. Like, every single answer to the problems that they're seeing that our country's facing, it seems like our response instinctually, the first thing we think about is, you can't put that on Biden. And that doesn't seem like a very strong, starting point for me. But that's what
I agree, yeah. Yeah, that's why I like to look at like legislation. Like, that's like what is the legislative agenda of both leaders, and what do they manage to pass? That's probably going to be more important than blaming the economy, or even giving credit to the economy under certain presidents. Like, but
I guess my only thought is like, and then I'll absolutely leave and let you get back to research, would be, if I ever get those questions, I would spin it into a tangible action that Biden took that we think is positive related to the issue. So they say, we didn't have a war when Ukraine, when Trump, we didn't have a Ukraine-Russia war when Trump was in office. We say, first of all, you did, and second of all, Biden took very strong action, is doing a great job on this because of X thing that he did.
Yeah, the only thing that sucks is like their counter is like, well, if Trump would have been in office, Putin wouldn't have even had the bravado to invade the rest of Ukraine. He was waiting for a weak president like Biden to get in there. My mom would think that.
Have you talked to her about this stuff?
Briefly for a little bit on stream, but she's
She seems so nice when I saw the little bit that I saw.
She is super nice. Both my parents are ultra nice and wonderful people. But like, I mean, like I think she said on stream, we had 2 older family members died from COVID, and my mom's not even vaccinated because she doesn't trust it that much. Like, it's insane. Yeah.
And you can't reach her.
No. When I started asking my parents like who they liked, they just started spitting out names. Like, I think my dad was like, "Oh, I really like Jim Jordan." I think my mom was a big Gates fan. They're like, yeah, they're super lost into that forever. Yeah.
All right, buddy. I'll let you get to it. Much love and stay safe.
Oh, I love you, buddy. Be careful.
Later, bye.
At Destiny, a YouTube chatter said, U.S. pop 15 to 65 working 151 million. U.S. pop 15 to 65 total 212 million. Unemployment rate 4%. Yes. We measure unemployment based on the number of people seeking work. That's how almost every country in the world measures unemployment. In finance or formally, or for government policy, we refer to this as the U3 unemployment rate. If you're looking at something, if you want to see the total number of people not working, then I think I fucked this up, but I keep looking this up. You have something called the U6, and then something a little different than the U6 called, I think the U6 is about labor force participation rate, but these roughly track each other. There's never been, in my understanding, there's never been a wide divergence between the U6 and the U3 unemployment rate. Like, they more or less track each other. So the idea that there's some secret unemployment happening that the numbers aren't accounting for is bullshit. Unguro donated $5. Your point of view on the 80K a year engineer grad with 30K in student loan debt says they can't afford a house in LA. Take was valid 2 to 3 years ago, but with current interest rates, any house above 400K costs like $2,600 a month plus. That's fine, but the numbers don't lie. Zoomers are on track to own houses just as much as any other generation. That's just a factual basis. Whether you like it or don't, that's whatever. I can't argue against your feelings there, but yeah. Has there ever been any administrations that have altered the definition of unemployment? I don't know. I don't think so. But does he understand that? But when you say people are confused about how the economy feels because your stats sound good, but they feel 25% unemployed people, even if not seeking. No, nobody feels 25% unemployed people, James. This is what I mean when I say, like, okay, if you said that, I hate to be the one to say this because I'm like the millionaire streamer guy. You are totally detached from the real world. Go to any airport, go to any restaurant, go to any downtown, and you will see sign after sign after sign. Now hiring. Burger King, 14 an hour. Gas station, 15 an hour. But dude, there are so many places all over the United States where everybody is desperately fucking searching for employees. Unless maybe that's only in every area that I've been in, but like it feels like everybody in the economy is so fucking hungry for workers right now. And I'm pretty sure, let me just look it up instead of saying pretty sure. Wages, poorest workers, United States. Can I find this? Is there a St. Louis Fed graph for like lower wages? Because my understanding from I think Krugman, I think I've seen a Bloomberg article talk about this. Pretty sure the lowest wages as unemployment decreases and it's crunching, pretty sure the lowest wage workers are the ones that are seeing some of the biggest wage bumps right now. But fuck, I don't know. I don't know what stat I would look for to find this exactly. I don't know if Metal Sword or whatever could find this. Midwest University Town, local fast food places are offering 15 to 16 starting wage now. What would you be doing for a living if it wasn't for your current occupation? Probably working at McDonald's and screaming at people on the internet. Let me look at this tweet. Econoboy linked this. Here is the growth of real wages by occupations for the pandemic period compared to pre-pandemic ranked by wages. You can see real wages up at the bottom, down at the top, and generally doing worse than pre-pandemic. Increase my confidence in the broad story. Percent change from December 17th to December 2019, and then 2019 to December 21. So this is where it's gained, and this is where it's decreased. So this is pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, or during and post-pandemic. So your biggest gains have been in leisure and hospitality, retail trade, transportation, and warehousing. And then your biggest losses have been education and health services, manufacturing, construction, financial activities, utilities, and information, and professional and business services. If the lowest wage is increasing, does that mean the value of a college degree is also decreasing? I think college degrees are running into an issue where if you're going to private schools and accumulating a ton of debt for not good degrees, I think you're actually starting to make bad financial decisions. I think I've read something about that somewhat recently. Wage growth tracker. I'm not as interested in all the wages. I'm looking at like wages weighted based on like quintiles of the economy or upper or lower. Degree quality matters a lot now. Yeah. Do wage level. Wait, where's wage level? So starting in January of 2022, this is for the United States. So you've seen wages are relatively stagnant in the first quartile. They've grown decently in the second quartile. And then in the third and especially the fourth, they've grown quite a bit. With the biggest growth being, seems like at the fourth quartile here, right? Is this percentage growth? So from like starting the year at 3% growth and ending the year at about 5.8% growth or 5.7% growth? 5.6% growth. As an ex-blue Colorino, what do you think about joining a trade? If you can do a trade, do it, but don't I think people oversell the trades, or they've started to a lot. I'm 23, I have no student loan debt, I make $80K a year. The numbers don't lie, Steven, but $2,600 a month on mortgage payments alone is a lot, especially for my car payment, $460 a month. The average is $800 a month and $140 a month for insurance. Yeah, like I don't know, I don't know what people's expectations are. I don't know if my background was too, or like once I hit my teens especially, was too lower class or not. But like in my mind, like if you're paying $460 a month for a car, in my mind, you're doing really well. But maybe that's not, maybe that doesn't track anymore. Maybe it's been, because like in my mind, if I graduated college now and I was like, I don't want to say poor, but if I was like coming to the job market, I feel like I'd try to buy, like here's a question, I genuinely don't know. Can you buy a decent used car right now for like $5,000? Or is that going to be like a dog shit fucking car? Like could I get like a Honda Civic or like an Accord or some shit? Could I find like a car like that for $5,000? It's not impossible, but much harder. So it looks like you're spending $5 to $10K, probably closer to $10,000 if you want an okay used car, probably. $8K is safe for a 5+ year old compact. You can actually get a new car for like $20K now. Anyone complain about car? Wait, what do you think my car is worth right now if I were to go sell it? Ford Focus RS 2017. I bought my car for $40K. Wait, 10, 11K? Yo, what the f? Wait, why is my shit f***ed? Important to remember that people's perception of the economy isn't just how well the economy is doing, but how well the economy is doing plus their lifestyle expectations. Yeah, sure. You're gonna make your kid buy their own car for Nathan? Oh, Jesus, I haven't even thought about that. He's 12. I have a few more years. He's not getting a brand new car for his first car. That motherfucker can drive a beater like I did, okay? Especially because everybody seems like they wreck their first car anyway. I'm not buying him some new shit so he can go fuck it up. Get him something insanely nice so he can flex on the pores. Yeah. What if I got him something really nice that he didn't know was really cool? Okay, and then he just hates me. But an older person seems like sick. Was it S2000s or S1000s? He'd probably hate this. This would be baller, okay? This would be badass, all right? Last owner, but used car prices are still extremely high. Most online listings are 5 to 6K more expensive unless you use dealership financing with 10% APR. Creditors or banks are tightening restrictions on age criteria for eligible cars. Love you, buddy. Chart proving housing is pretty much unattainable, contrary to what Destiny says. Okay, long-term trends. I don't know what this is. Home price to income ratio, US and UK. Home price to median household income ratio. Okay, so couple things. First, is the home price the mean home price, or it's probably median home price to median household? Are households making less money because of the because not as many people are marrying as early, because I think a household includes both incomes, right? I understand that this number is high now. I don't know how it would necessarily make sense with this number, but if you look at the actual like percentage of people who own homes, rather than trying to look at a, I think Noah wrote an article on this. He should have a source on this. Noah opinion, home ownership. I know he wrote something else recently, and he had a source to home ownership by generation. That number literally just tracks the 30-year yield. It's such a shit way to measure house affordability. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if it's even a good way to measure it. But I would just, you can just look at like, I think you just look at like the percentage of people that own homes, right? Gen Z is on track with older generations' home ownership rates. So this is Gen Z down here as they age, but the home ownership rates for Gen Z people, first of all, started out higher than other generations, and I believe it's about on track with other generations as well. Millennials got fucked a little bit here, obviously, but millennials have more or less caught up to where Gen Xers were, and then we're all a little bit behind where the baby boomers were. But this idea that like Gen Z uniquely can't afford homes or are uniquely to every other generation, I don't think if you look at the home ownership rates, I don't think that that's borne out by any data. We can look at like medians or ratios or other things, but if you just look at like the raw number of people, or not the raw number, but the actual number of people in each generation that own homes, I think it's about where it's supposed to be. Why are people spending so much more relative to income on homes, especially since 2020? I don't know how much this is carried by, right? Home ownership is a complicated question. There's probably a lot of economic factors that you have to consider. One is going to be like, how much does a home appreciate? Like if you're spending a lot on your home, but it's appreciating at a greater value, that might be worthwhile. Another is going to be interest rates are going to influence like how much you'd be expected to spend on a home. Another might be like overall income. So for instance, if somebody says, do you spend 50% of your income on a home? It might be bad. If you earn $25,000 a year and you spend 50% of your income on your mortgage, that's really bad. If you earn $100,000 and you spend 50%, it's probably not as bad. I'm not sure. Home ownership and like the factors that go into owning a home and making it affordable are probably really complicated, more so than I imagine most types of numbers you're looking at. That'd be my guess, right? Oh, is it a two-person household versus a one-person household? It's probably going to influence it quite a bit as well. Yeah. Destiny, I'm sorry, but this take is brain dead. Home ownership is so high because of the recent 0% interest rate. So APR went from 2.5% to 7.5%. Anyone who wants to buy a house right now is screwed. Interest rates influence one part of it, but you don't actually know that. For instance, you think that 0% interest makes it easier for you to buy a home. That's not necessarily true. It might be the case that 0% interest rates look like they make home ownership easier because the loan terms are more favorable, but the increase in cost of the home, the actual appreciation in value or the inflated value of homes might put homes that you could have afforded at 4 or 5% interest out of reach because 0% means that the competition of the demand for those mortgages and for housing is so much higher that the price is driven up to, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's a little bit more complicated than just like looking at one or two numbers and saying it. Low interest absolutely makes it easier. It's not. I don't know how. Go watch an econ channel or finance channel. If you don't understand what I just said, I can't explain it to you. Okay, I'm too lazy. Okay, don't trigger me. Why am I getting triggered? I'm not triggered. Scott Alexander's done a bit of writing on cost disease, which is just the general term for housing, education, medical costs being fucked. Might be worth reading. Maybe. Destiny, wrong. Take the numbers and work it out on paper. Well, I mean, I can make the numbers work. Depends on what we're talking about. But like, let's say hypothetically, let's say that we have two worlds, okay? Let's say in this world, I'm right on the concept, okay? Now, I don't know where the actual numbers fall, but I'm correct on the concept, okay? Let's say that this is a world of, let's say we have a world of 0% interest, and let's say that these are average housing costs in thousands, okay? Average house can be $1,000 or $1 million. It might be the case that, let's go from 2000 to 2020. I'm not going to follow any of the trends. Okay, but let's say at 0%, let's say that housing prices look like this, okay? 0% interest, okay? 0% interest, as the interest falls on a given thing, the quantity demanded of the same thing will rise. People want to buy more of the same thing at a lower price. It's very basic supply and demand, okay? Cheaper mortgages being available means more people acquiring mortgages. Mortgages are connected to housing prices. It means that cost of housing will increase, okay? More people chasing the same stock of housing will drive up housing prices, okay? So this is what we would expect to happen for 0% interest. Now, let's say we take a world where we bump interest to, we'll say 5%. It's possible that that world looks like this, okay? Because the interest rates are higher, not as many people going for mortgages, not as many people chasing the same number of houses, the stock of housing available to sell is lower, the amount of people buying are lower, right? When we look at this, okay, you might be here right now. You might be here right now saying like, God, if interest rates were 0%, it would be so much more affordable to buy housing. But you don't know that. 0% interest rates might mean that you'd be buying a house for way more money, right? Lower interest rates, more people chasing the same stock of housing causes prices to increase, right? Destiny, rates went up, prices stayed the same. Who gives a shit about the hypothetical? When you're looking at the cost of housing right now, you're not comparing the cost of a house at this rate based on what the cost of the house was at the last rate. You're trying to compare the cost of the house at this rate now to hypothetically what it would be if the other rate was now. For instance, here, you could be here right now, okay? You could be here right now saying, Destiny, you fucking retard, interest rates are 5%, housing prices are still going up. You're wrong. Look, they're increasing. But the argument isn't that an increase in interest rate would decrease housing prices. It's that it would decrease the increase, okay? That your first derivative would decrease, not the actual function would decrease, right? The acceleration would decrease. It wouldn't necessarily cause prices to lower. So prices might not be lower than they were 10 years ago, but they should be lower than they would be today if interest rates were still 0%, okay? Okay. If you don't believe me, then I'm a retard and we can all be retards and that's fine. That's all I have to say. Also, everything that I'm saying right now, it's basic finance and math, but there might be other reasons economically why what I'm saying is wrong. There might be other factors that are driving housing prices up, okay? What I just gave you, I don't mean basic like everyone should know. I mean basic in that like that analysis that I just gave was very, very, very crude, okay? There are other external factors that can influence the cost of housing, okay? There you go, okay.